it goes right, it's a slice. If it goes left, it's a hook. If it goes straight, it's a miracle. This is Out of Bounds. If it's happening in the world of golf, we're talking about it. Coverage, debate, discussion, pro golf and local golf. Let's do it. This is Out of Bounds. And here are your hosts, Nate Sharman and Josh Durso.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Out of Bounds. Josh Durso and Nate Sharman here talking golf on this very frosty MLK Day here in the Northeast. Nate, we had a TikTok ban, then TikTok came back, and we're still on TikTok.
Yeah, we were gone for about 24 hours, not even. And then old President-elect Donald Trump, what we were saying, now he's President Donald Trump as of today, Inauguration Day. But yeah, we're back on TikTok, so head over to the Out of Bounds TikTok, right? Follow us there.
Yeah, and don't forget the J, Donald J.
Oh, excuse me.
Point. All right, so let's get into golf from the last couple of weeks. Sepp Straka, one of the most interesting golfers going, I think, just because of that voice that comes from him when he talks. Won the American Express at PGA West, finished his 25 under par, 2 ahead of Justin Thomas. Jason Day and Patrick Cantlay also get a couple top 5 finishes as well. Decent leaderboard, which I guess in theory should have meant more eyes on it, but competing with the NFL divisional games and historically slow final round. Was this a historically slow final round? They were way over 5 hours, right?
Yeah, that's something that nobody wants to watch. For the life of me, I can't figure out why we play threesomes on the weekends after we make the cut. I mean, this is a rare tournament in where we make the cut after 54 holes instead of 36 holes, right? They play the 3 courses and then the final round. We're cutting down to however many guys and we're still playing threesomes. I know the days are shorter this time of year in the winter, but it still doesn't seem like without bad weather, it's going to be something that's needed. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's wild. Obviously my eyes, if you know me, my eyes weren't on the golf tournament yesterday. I'm a huge Bills fan. Everyone knows that. So we're watching the Bills take down the Ravens to move in the Kansas City Invitational next weekend. So looking forward to that. And I was paying attention on my phone to the golf tournament. I'll be doing the same next week as they play at the same time.
Yeah. Competing with the NFL is impossible, but
impossible. Yes.
You aren't doing yourself any favors when the rounds are 5.5 hours long, or the final round. Your signature round is 5.5 plus hours long.
Especially when there's this whole new golf startup simulator league going on Tuesday nights that they're playing 15 holes in an hour and a half. I know, especially when that's going on, right? Yeah,
and we're going to talk about that later. But I almost feel like at this point, the slow play stuff is getting to a point of no return. Like, I feel like the tour is going to be forced to do something about it. Not in between seasons. Like, I don't think this is now something that they're going to be able to kick down the road to between 25 and 26. I think they're going to have to do something this year.
I totally agree, Josh. And I think when we've had this whole PGA Live thing going on the last few years, and that's been the number one problem. And like you said, they've been able to kick it down the can a few years and figure this out later. They're not going to be able to do that. I think we're getting closer to Live PGA merger or whatever you want to call it. And we're going to have to figure out slow play too. There's going to be a lot of pressure from the outside, whether it be from golf people and now from the TGL to sort of showing how we can be faster, right? And I think there's going to be a lot of problems. I mean, you're even seeing players having a problem with it. On last week at the Sony Open, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was yelling up to his playing partner. He was up in front of him. He's like, "No, I'm going now," and like I'm playing now. Like, nothing really you can do about it, kind of thing. So you can even see that the players are a little bit frustrated by it too.
Yeah, and I feel like the one bit of cover that the PGA Tour has right now is that it's January, and there aren't that many eyes on it to begin with. But, you mentioned it. The weather was fine. There wasn't there was no reason that play should have been that slow. Threesomes, I get it. Like, having 3 players in a group, maybe that slows things down a little bit. I don't even see how that should slow things down because you have fewer groups on the golf course. So again, my concern at this point is looking ahead to some tournaments where there has, over the last 3 or 4 years, historically been some either bad weather, especially when you're on the West Coast in the spring, or even frost delay. I mean, we had frost delays last year at the UM Open, and that's just in a couple weeks. It's not an elevated event. It's a full field event. 5.5 hour days means that you're not finishing your days, and you're potentially, cornering yourself into Monday finishes when the sun's out.
And I'm glad you brought up the waste management, because that's a tournament on Sunday where if you run into a frost delay, you got to be done by 5:30. Super Bowl starts at 6. You can't. No shot. You can't even get close to it, in my mind. I mean, last year it leaked into it because Dick Taylor went to a playoff. That's obviously different. But you can't. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that one. I think what's really interesting, why I said the threes part, is I feel like as a golf watcher, and Josh, I think you can disagree with me if you want here, but it just takes out some of the sort of momentum to me. This guy plays, then this guy plays, right? There's 2 people playing in the group, and that's kind of what your brain is taught to. I don't know if that's from watching the Masters and from watching big high-profile golf tournaments as a kid, where what you learn that this player goes and this player goes, and there's 2 different games going on, right, in a group, and that's how you differentiate it. And then when you throw another one, I think it sort of can kind of confuse people in a way. So I think that's kind of one way I dislike threes on the weekend. I get it for the Thursday and Friday rounds. It just has to happen with that many players. But I think it also heightens their ability to go split tees. I think that helps too. But they're still playing 6-hour rounds, so it doesn't make it any faster. It seems like it makes it slower, if not anything.
To me, it has to be a shot clock. I am to the point now, especially having seen the reaction to TGL, and I don't want to get into that before we have a chance to talk about Nick Taylor's playoff win last week, but like a shot clock, some form of a shot clock. And I'm not sure how it would be implemented. I'm sure technology would have to be involved when the clock would start and finish, and there would need to be clearly more officials out on the course and in groups. But especially when we're talking about limited field events, I don't see where there should be any issue in pulling that off. Do it. Point where you can have a shot clock displaying on the screen, even if I think part of it is just the appearance of a shot clock would change people's psychology toward watching golf, because you feel like when the shot is going to happen, as opposed to now when we cut from 16 to 13, we don't know when that person's going to hit. It could be 3 seconds after the camera hits them, or it could be 40. We don't know which. Right. And I think that is part of if we're talking about the psychological part of watching golf, I think that's part of the part that makes it feel like such a slow game, is just this uncertainty of when it's going to happen. Like, you could have a day wrap up in 4 hours and 45 minutes, I guess, or you could have it take 6 hours. You don't know what you're going to get day to day. And that, like, putting a clock on it, I think, would really change things a lot. And frankly, I think TGL is going to start warming guys up to this whole idea. Nick Taylor, though, playoff win. He is pretty good in playoffs, as it turns out.
3-0 in playoffs. It seems like whenever he can get in like that, he does some damage. And that was really cool final round for Nick Taylor, because he knocked in a couple medium distance putts coming down the back nine. It looks like, Nick Taylor's in this thing. And then he misses a short one at 16, misses a short one at 17, and then he chips in from just off the green. I don't know if you want to call it a chip in, but he holes out from just off the green on 18 to get in the playoff. So that was, he's got a theme for the dramatics, certainly. Nick Taylor does, citing back that long cut of the RBC Canadian Open in a playoff where he won in his home country. So it's just pretty cool how he can get it done when he needs to. But yeah, it looked like when he missed those short putts that Nick Taylor was kind of out of it, but he never take the Canadian out of it, I guess, right?
You just can't. Is he the best? Is he the best Canadian in professional golf right now?
Oh, that's tough. I think so. I think he's up there for sure. I mean, Corey Connors has been really consistent. I don't know if he has the wins to back up Nick Taylor, but Corey Connors has performed very well in big spots. I mean, just look at the tournament we were at in Rochester, the PGA Championship, how good Corey Connors was that week, and then he's had some good weeks at the Augusta too. I don't know if Nick Taylor's performed as well in majors or on that big stage. But it's certainly he's coming from Mike Weir, I guess, in terms of Canadians with the most victories. I believe it's Mike Weir. So yeah. I think he's definitely something to be talked about there. But I'm not sure. What do you think? Is he the best one?
It needs more time. It's not
right. Yeah,
it's not going to put him in that like historically the best Canadian golfer.
Yeah,
exactly. I probably need a major win because, Mike Weir's got that. I would say right now, in terms of how he's played over the last year or two, winning in playoff events on the PGA Tour is not for the faint of heart. I mean, that's serious stuff. So
no, it's not.
That's a big nod for me. But let's talk about TGL. 2 really great weeks in terms of if TGL were sitting down a year ago, gaming out how their first couple weeks could potentially go, being broadcast on ESPN. I think that the way the last 2 weeks have gone would be exactly how they would want it to go. 1 million people watched both weeks on ESPN, millions of impressions across all platforms, which the reporting on this has been a little confusing, but eyeballs on television screens in prime time on ESPN. It's competing with the NBA. It's beating the NBA for a completely untested concept and product. How could it be better?
No, it can't. I don't think it can so far the way it started. I mean, I came on this podcast and I talked with friends. I talked with you about how excited I was for TGL. I was even surprised on how much I enjoyed it. I thought I would enjoy it, but I was like, wow, this is really cool. This is amazing. And I watched both events from start to finish, from 7 o'clock to 8:53 and from 9 o'clock to whatever time it ended that first week. And it's just really fun and innovative. And I think the biggest thing for me too, at the end of the day, is I was really kind of curious about how the players would do it, about how the players would like it. You can see when they're playing and they're kind of hamming it up and this is our job to entertain, right? And we're enjoying this, right? But no, they're actually enjoying it. And whether it be dropping the hammer where they throw the flag and they double it and how exciting that was. I mean, to hit the guy that ran across the green and spike the hammer on Max Homa's face, right? And you could just tell these guys are just having a ball playing this. And I mean, even Tiger Woods is having a ball playing this, a guy who doesn't need to necessarily play in this league. I mean, Tiger had 120-yard approach shot coming in, and he hit it too hard and it went over the green out of bounds. And even Tiger was kind of like, you can tell, the competitor inside of him was like, that simulator's off, because Tiger Woods, I don't do that. And you can even tell that, if he didn't care, he would just be like, yeah, whatever. But he deep down, he cares and he wants to play well. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. When you look at this, what you've seen so far, what do you like most and least about it? What do you think the big, obviously, I already mentioned a shot clock. I think the shot clock is the biggest one for me, but I would say right next to it is the energy that they've been able to create in those spaces with live human beings in a completely tech-supported, adventure. That's good stuff. That has been really, really impressive to see. The big issue, I guess, is what you just mentioned. For me, is clearly they're still working out some bugs with the tech, getting that done. I have to assume they'll get that under control though pretty quickly.
Right. Oh, for sure. I would assume might even be, especially when you got Tiger breathing down your neck and issue have to happen to him. It's going to be figured out pretty quick. But yeah, my favorite thing is that how they play the approach and they get into what they call the green zone. So inside 100 yards. And then immediately when that ball comes to rest, a light pops up by the green and that's where they hit. And I think that's so cool because these guys, the next person, if they're playing alternate shot, can be watching them hit, right? And then they can flip their attention over and see where that little spot pops up and start planning their shot, right? Because they don't have a ton of time with the shot clock. So I think that's really cool. And then the thing that I don't like, maybe that I would change, there's not a ton, but if I were to nitpick one thing, I think they're still trying to figure out whether it be the in-game commentators or guests coming on, what to do, right? I think Scott Van Pelt does a very nice job in sort of starting the broadcast and helping out with the halftime show. Maybe it would be getting his voice in there a little bit more during play, because I think Scott Van Pelt is, you hear that voice and you don't even need to see him. You hear that voice and everybody that's watched sports knows that's Scott Van Pelt. I mean, that's a guy that's been doing it forever and a really well-respected commentator, broadcaster, whatever you want to host, whatever you want to call him. And I think that could be really interesting. I mean, they had Serena Williams on last week, and Serena's a part owner of the LA team. And I understand totally why they had her on there, but she clearly didn't really, I don't know if didn't want to be on there is right, but didn't know a ton about the game of golf. I mean, they asked her if she wanted to play any golf, and she basically said a flat out no. So I think that kind of went tough. So I think there can be some improvements on the broadcasting side. But like you said, Josh, I mean, we're 2 weeks into this thing. You can't get too mad about little things like that. That's all stuff that's going to get ironed out. Yeah,
and I also think there's an element of needing to create moments in that. Like, we haven't really had a good match yet. Like,
No, they've both been blowouts.
all of this has happened, and the matches haven't really been competitive. Like, I feel like part of what you're talking about gets addressed with just a close match and some tension building up and a little bit of drama, and the announcer sort of taking over for the broadcaster doing what broadcasters do best, telling the
Getting out of the way, right? Yeah.
And that's just sort of should happen organically on its own, I think.
Imagine when Tiger's sitting over a 15-footer to win the match. I mean, imagine what that's going to do on social and what that's going to do for the game of golf, just for Tiger to be looking at a 15-footer.
Yeah.
For Jupiter to win.
Yeah, it's one of those things where,
that'll happen. That's for sure going to happen too at some point.
We're waiting for those moments to happen. They're going to happen eventually.
Right, and they're going to happen, yeah.
And the great thing is, there are so many stars in PGL that it may not be Tiger right away.
Right.
There are probably like 5 or 6 other guys that are very common household names in the world of golf that would have that same kind of effect if they did something big coming down the stretch, or if they.
And I think what they can figure out too, right? Yeah, and I think what they can figure out too is a way for a team to be, if they're getting shellacked in the alternate shot and they go into the single match, is a way they can come back really quickly. And I think they thought the hammer could work with that, but the thing is, you could deny that and not take the 2-point. You haven't seen the team deny it yet. But maybe there's another wrinkle that we can think of where we can get teams that are down 7-1 or 8-1 after the alternate shot and going into the singles, which, I mean, the last 2 matches going into the singles, I mean, there's not really a chance for the other team to win. It takes a lot for these guys to make a 5 on an arcade golf course, on an arcade golf hole. I mean, it takes it, even if it's 600 yards, they're not going to make a 6. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think they have to lean more into the arcade aspect of it, and I think they'll continue coming up with more creative ways to make the
exactly
less realistic and more challenging. And that's kind of I think that's where it's going to be. Also, I think there's going to be at some point here more of a conscious lean in to the gambling side of this, like to be more like the everyman's golf experience. Like, you're out playing with your buddies and you're creating some weird like stipulations on the 14th or 15th hole because the original matches have kind of like gone awry. Like, I think there's going to be some of that introduced. Again, I just think it's trial and error to some degree, and they probably haven't like thought a lot of this out yet, but they surely will.
Right. And they have a really high ground to stand on so far. And these are just little things that can be made better. And that's amazing that we're talking about this being an overwhelming success 2 weeks in.
Literally 2 weeks in. Crazy. One thing on that, do you think the successful ratings of TGL is hurting the PGA Tour's core product?
No, I mean, I think we go back to the NFL just owning this time of year. And I think maybe we can talk about it as we get more into the summer if it has any effect on it. But I think that being the NFL and it being on ESPN, it's on ESPN. It's on number 1. It's on not even ESPN 2. It's on ESPN 1. There was some big college basketball games last week. I thought maybe on ESPN 2, but it was on the main channel. So I think that just trumps everything for it being on a sports network like that, because they've built an empire there. I think there's a lot of people that just go watch ESPN and then they stumble into the TGL. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't have it on the list to talk about, but Liv going to Fox, obviously getting those tournaments on a major network. I think there's going to be this like assumption that their ratings just automatically improve. But I would say the PGA Tour is a pretty good example of that not always being the case. These tournaments that have been drawing like, 400,000-500,000 viewers in the closing moments, the most important moments on traditional networks is, proof positive that you really just have to create a damn good product that people are willing to sit down and watch. And the traditional golf broadcast has a long way to go, whether it's the PGA Tour or whether it's Liv. They've all got some work to do here as we get towards the spring and summer.
But a very necessary step for Liv, because in the next few years, if they're going to try to get a Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy to play an event on their tour, how are they going to get, after this supposable deal happens, how are they going to get Rory or Scotty to come play their tournament? I'm on the CW. No way. I'm not playing. So it's a very necessary step, because now they're in homes.
Yeah, for sure. And now we need to stay on this live train a little bit longer because there's been a bunch of discussion, especially on social media over the last month or so, about whether there should be or should not be automatic qualifying for live players in majors, ranging from, a top 10 to top 20 kind of thing or something in between. Obviously, a lot of folks taking a hardline stance saying no, nothing at all. What do you think is the right move? Is there a line? Like, is there a number of to that point in the live season? Say we're at we're talking
Right.
U.S. Open. Come the end of May, or the beginning of May, X number of events have been played. Would we be okay with the top 10 or top 20 guys from live getting a chance?
Top 20, I think, is definitely too much because that's like half your league at that point. But I think top 10 is even a little too much too, because the thing is, first, also, you're going to remember that the top 10 in the live standings is it's going to include guys like Bryson DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, who guys are already qualified, right? So that's one thing you can think of too. But I don't necessarily think that these individual events can sort of get guys in majors. And I know that's been the argument from a lot of guys. But yeah, I think if we want to look at the top 5 and maybe getting in like the U.S. Open could be interesting. But I don't know if we want to do that. But I think it's definitely a spot we're going to get to in the next few years when we start seeing more cross-pollination and these tours having a little bit more weight in terms of getting guys to play on them from the other side. So I think that it will happen. But I think that top 5 number could be a good spot to sort of compromise on, because when I first saw this story come out, I said, yeah, no shot, no way. Can't get guys from live to come play on these majors just because they played well at live. But then I thought about it more and about how it does have some good players and it is some good competition. And then I remembered the fact that, like, if you were to look at the last year's top 5, I mean, there's going to be a few guys that are already qualified. So that does change things in my mind.
Yeah, and I think that would actually probably be part of the reason why I'd go to 10 for me.
Yeah.
Because I would say probably 3 or 4 of your consistent top 10 live guys are getting automatic invitations anyway.
It might even be more.
What we're really trying to find are the unexpected 4 to 5 to 6 guys out of that top 10 who deserve a chance to play. And that's where I am with it. Top 10, no weird 12, 13, 14 position guys getting in because of guys in the top 10 automatic qualifying. But yeah, I can go with top 10 with that little caveat attached to it. To your point, I think we're basically there as far as getting to that point where we're going to see some kind of system for them to get in regardless. So, let's just stop slow rolling this stuff. Let's get these people in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just looking at, like John Rahm, Joaquin Niemann finished 1-2 last year. I mean, those guys John Rahm's in all of them, obviously, and Niemann was in all of them too. Yep. Brooks Koepka is also in that list. Sergio Garcia, Bryson DeChambeau, these are guys that are playing in a lot of them. Taylor Gooch, a lot of problems around his status last year. So I think that could work, the top 10. I don't think I'd go any further than that.
But didn't Niemann have to have a invite to get into?
Yeah, to get the Masters, yes.
Yeah.
But I think the Masters is a total different. I think it's hard to, if we're talking about qualification, I think the Masters is one where we throw out because they're going to do what they're going to do.
And that's an invitational. Straight up.
And that's an invitational, right? I mean, the U.S. Open is one where you can qualify for, so it's different.
All right, so the PGA Tour is just peppered with injuries right now. Can you give us a bit of a breakdown here on who's potentially under watch and who might be coming back? I know Jordan Spieth is coming back within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, Jordan Spieth, and then 1, 2, and 4 are all have injuries. So we talked about the Scotty injury last podcast. Has that hand injury that he suffered around Christmas.
Yep.
After he got some broken glass in the hand, we'll pass judgment on how that happened, but it did happen. So it looks like he'll be back in a few weeks for the AT&T, or that's next week, excuse me. But he should be back for that. If not, we should hopefully see him at Waste Management. He's fun for that tournament. Xander has a rib injury that he's sort of been nursing. It seems like he's been playing through it, but it's certainly a sign this week. He withdrew. He played in the TGL last week or 2 weeks ago, and he withdrew this week, and they're playing at Torrey, and that's his hometown. So that's certainly something that these guys take a lot of pride in playing in their hometown. So it's seriously a big injury. And then finally, Scott Lewis, Golf Channel, comes out today and says that, he's not even taking full swings. So
Yeah.
I like putting full swings in quotation marks. What does that exactly mean? There's a few different ways about full swings. So hopefully we see him back in a few weeks. I don't know if he's not taking full swings. Is he going to rest for a month? Who knows? But yeah, that's certainly up for Xander because, that's a guy that really caught fire last year and a guy that a lot of people like watching. Also, Morikawa withdrew this week. We don't know a ton about him. I was just doing some research and I couldn't find anything. So it sounds like it's just minor bump in the road for Colin. We should see him back next week. And then, the return of Jordan Spieth. Sounds like we're going to see him at the AT&T Pro-Am, which is awesome. I mean, Jordan Spieth's a guy who has battled demons for sure, but he's certainly a crowd favorite. People love him. And so to get him back in tournaments is awesome. So we're going to see Jordan back here pretty soon.
I want to see him win this year. I really want to see him win.
Yeah, that would be awesome to watch Jordan Spieth get back in the winner's circle, especially if it was at the Masters to see him compete there where he's won before and almost won a second time.
Yeah. Another injury thing that just sort of popped into my head a couple minutes ago. Ludwig Ober, remember
that's right.
He was battling a weird knee thing the end of last year, and some thought that there might need to be some surgery. I don't know if the surgery actually happened or not, but judging from what we saw at TGL in the last 2 weeks, he's taken some serious passes at the golf ball. So I assume that
he was cruising at TGL.
He's also favored this week at the Farmers. So there's that. It'd be cool to see him get back into it.
Yeah, it was really interesting with Ludwig last year, watching him, take a different presence to read putts and stuff. And I think the TGL, you have to be really careful with the TGL because they don't have to bend down at all. They don't have to walk up hills. They don't have to. I mean, Tiger Woods can't possibly play a tournament event how he is right now. And it sounds like we may not ever see him play a tournament event again, which is really sad. I don't know. But we also said that I think I said that a few years ago, and look what the dummy he made me look. So who knows? It's hard to discount a guy like Tiger Woods, but just being able to watch them at the TGL, it's so much different. They don't have to walk at all. It's all flat. They're not walking up hills or anything like that. So it's really interesting. But yeah, Ludwig seems fine to me so far.
Yeah. All right. So we got some to close out here. We've got some Torrey Pines news. First off, the Genesis is moving to Torrey Pines because of the wildfires in the LA area, which no surprise there. The tour announced that in the last 24 hours after announcing late last week that they weren't going to play in LA. This means they're going to be playing there twice in a month because guess where they are this week for the Farmers? Oh, yeah, that's right. Torrey Pines. I don't really – I feel like there's not much to say about the move away from LA. Completely understand why you had to do that. The golf course was actually pretty darn close to where the fires had actually been taking place. The resources that would have been required from the community to put on the event in light of everything that was going on, just not the right thing to do to have it there. But to have it at a place like Torrey Pines, I like it. Makes a lot of sense. Checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah. It makes too much sense. Torrey Pines is a fun golf course and one that I think a lot of people can even recognize. If the tour were to have that event in LA while everything's going on, I think they would have gotten a lot of negative backlash. Like you said, it just takes so much from the community to put on an event like that. But yeah, thinking of everybody that's been affected by these fires in LA, and that seems to be a really tough situation. And some of the videos that have come out have just been scary. So I hope everyone's doing okay there. But yeah. The move to Torrey Pines just makes way too much sense, Josh.
Yeah, and you know what? It's such a great golf course. I don't even really care that we're going to see it twice in a month.
Yeah, why not? Let's play it again.
Before we came on, we were talking about that. Like, most sports play their best venues more than once. Pines is definitely one of them. I don't think anyone would complain about seeing Torrey Pines on the schedule twice a year.
Absolutely not. And it's absolutely beautiful views. You're right on the water too in California. So yeah, let's play it more than once. I'm with you on that one, Josh.
Do you have a winner for this weekend?
Oh man, I haven't studied it enough. How about Matthew Pavone? He's going back. Got his first win here last year. Maybe again. How about that? I'm certainly rooting for the guy.
All right. To me, this is such an interesting tournament because this is not an elevated event, correct? Am I crazy?
Correct.
But we have got a ton of big names in this thing. And
yeah, we just talked about how Torrey Pines is so special, and I think that's why they get all the big names playing this one because it's so special to a lot of people.
Yeah, so I mean, personally, if I had to pick a couple, I'm picking Ludwig, I guess, as my favorite. He is literally favorite. Hideki is as well. They both have the same odds. But, there's a lot of interesting names on that list. Will Zalatoris is in the field. Max Homa is in the field. Max Homa is the guy that needs a win. The golf needs him to win a golf.
Yes, for sure.
Badly.
And I need him to win one so that I can pick him for my Ryder Cup team, because I talked about all of them to do that, and so I need him to play well for that reason. So I need him on my back.
Just take care of that, Max, if you can.
That would be ideal.
Akshay Bhatia is also in the field this week. He's another guy who played really well last year, and I think he's in that point where if he started popping off a couple wins, I don't think anybody would be surprised by it.
How cool would it be if Max Homa does that too? Because, as an LA guy, he's talked about, the fires and stuff and went for the support. How cool would it be for an LA guy to win right now in this part of the season, just to be able to use their platform for good? It's definitely a really hard time for a lot of people, even that don't live in LA right now. Even if they're from LA, and just being able to give back to just how much that would mean to Max Homa and how cool that would be of a story that would be. Yeah,
it would be massive. But we'll see. We'll see if he can get that done. I do think, don't worry, Nate, I do think he's going to get a win this year. I don't think he's going to just fire completely off the entire year. But
well, that's what we saw last year when he finished, third or whatever in the Masters, and then just flamed out the rest of the year.
Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen again. Hey, that is going to do it for this edition of Out of Bounds. Check out the TikTok, YouTube channel, Instagram, and Substack for more in-between episodes. And until next time, you guys know the drill. Whether it's down the middle or out of bounds, keep on swinging.
You've been listening to Out of Bounds. If it's coverage, debate, or discussion of pro and local golf, we'll be talking about it. Be sure to visit the website. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. See you next time on Out of Bounds.